Welcome to Movie Slice. Quick fun recaps of your favorite movies. Sharp, funny, and to the point. Hit subscribe and get your perfect slice of cinema. The series Alice in Borderland keeps rolling into the third season, opening up with a memory of some characters accepting permanent residency inside the game, while others like Alice and Usagi flat out turn it down. 5 years after the meteorite's crash, Alice is being interviewed about his cardiac arrest. In the real world, he narrates the day when that meteorite slammed into the city. He recounts that at that moment, he spotted a red light, but figured it was just fireworks, so he didn't pay it much mind. That's the reason he ducked into the bathroom with his friends. From that point on, a bunch of events went down in that place, and then suddenly everything dropped into absolute silence. After that moment, Alice can't remember a single thing more. The meteorite's crash, according to him, is what triggered his cardiac arrest. They ask if he recalls any other detail, but Alice answers that's all he's got. Dr. Ryuji, though, asks if during his unconsciousness, he had any kind of dream. A dream tied to gambling with his own life. But Alice can't seem to remember a thing, though he does have a faint memory of dreaming about some trip, one where he found himself in a far-off country. Even so, the others tell him not to strain himself trying to recall. At that moment, they warn Dr. Ryuji that pressing Alice might mess up his memories, to which Ryuji answers that plenty of survivors have mentioned similar experiences, including those red lights, and he's not the only one who's spoken about it. Dr. Ryuji is a man obsessed with digging into life after death, a stance that's drawn its fair share of criticism. He tells Alice that if he remembers more details, no matter how ridiculous they might sound, he's got to pass them along, even if it's something nobody else could ever believe. Later on, we see that he and Usagi are now married. Ryuji hands his business card to Usagi, asking her to reach out the next time she wants to talk. Then we catch Ryuji working on his research. After having interviewed a bunch of people involved in the meteorite, all of them share the same dream: a trip, an empty city, games, and fireworks. Later, he gets in touch with somebody who's got details about those mysterious games. This person writes to him, hinting that they've got a lead that might pique his interest. Ryuji meets the woman at a coffee shop, and she asks if he's also interested in the seminar. He answers, yeah, absolutely, and asks her to hook him up with an invitation since he's heard the system's real strict. She doesn't recommend it, but she assures him it's something truly real, with thrilling games and sacred-like qualities. She tells him that in a week, he'll get the invite through the mail. A week later, Ryuji receives the long-awaited message with the address of. He heads over there, and upon arrival finds himself among other people interested in the experience. The host invites them to take a seat, but when Ryuji's about to sit down, a girl tries to help him since he's in a wheelchair. However, the host shuts that down, telling him he's got to do it on his own. Right after that, the host lets them know the game is just about to kick off. A confused girl speaks up, saying she came looking for a near-death experience, and the host replies that this game is exactly the condition for being able to take part in the trip. He explains to them that the game they'll be playing is called the Old Lady. The players are handed a deck of cards and have to discard any pairs they can make. At the very end, whoever's still holding the Joker card, the one representing the old lady, ends up being the winner. But if someone snatches the Joker from another player, the one who gets robbed is eliminated on the spot. On top of that, if any player even tries to quit the game, that person also gets eliminated. Panic breaks loose once two people are already taken out. The game rolls on, and then another girl gets eliminated too. Ryuji, seizing the chance, manages to steal the Joker card from another player, and luckily he ends up winning. With everybody else eliminated, it's revealed that the host of the game is actually Banda, who welcomes him straight into Borderland. Meanwhile, Usagi is haunted by constant nightmares about her late father, but she doesn't dare to tell Alice anything. The next day, the news reports the discovery of several dead bodies inside a seminar. Alice, working as an intern at a counseling center, tends to a meteorite survivor who turns out to be someone he already knew. She tells him that they already knew each other since they had met before in a distant place among the survivors. Some of them claim they had seen another world, one that was filled either with hope or maybe with despair. And she knows that Alice also lived through that world, and she remembers everything they went through there. She tells him that they fought hard to survive, and because of that struggle, they were able to return to the world where they are now, and desperate for answers, did everything in her power to figure out what had really happened, and she managed to find a way to go back. At the same time, Usagi heads over to a hotel and suddenly experiences a deja vu connected to the massacre on the beach. Frightened, she calls Alice, but she can't bring herself to say a single word, and after a short silence, she hangs up. Alice tries to track her down, but he can't find her anywhere. Worried, Alice reports her disappearance, and the authorities show him a video where Usagi is seen leaving together with Ryuji. They don't believe she vanished. They just figure she willingly went off with him. So Alice begins digging into Ryuji and discovers that he has never stopped probing into life after death. On top of that, he's been looking into several occult gatherings being held across the city. During his interviews with survivors, Ryuji had questioned Usagi about her dreams, and she admitted that she often dreamed about her late father. Those dreams felt so real that even if they were nightmares, Usagi wished she could stay there with him. Alice unexpectedly runs into Banda, who assures him that eventually he's going to remember Borderland and the time he spent there, and that's what will lead him back into that world. On top of that, Banda reveals that the games are about to resume, this time with Usagi taking part, and he hands over a Joker card. Not long after, they find Usagi in a coma. He's told there's evidence showing that she was forced to consume some kind of magical substance. The doctor also reveals that Usagi is pregnant. As if that wasn't enough, Ryuji is also discovered, and he too is in a coma. Among Usagi's belongings, Alice finds a Joker card, which makes him recall what Banda had told him earlier, and then he learns that among Ryuji's belongings, they also found an identical card. Alice goes to Anne, the one who had spoken to him about another world. He tells her what happened to Usagi, as well as his encounter with Banda, and asks her for help to bring Usagi back. Anne explains that the interval between when the heart stops and the moment when a person can still be safely revived is only about 2 minutes. During those 2 minutes, she believes everyone enters a kind of collective consciousness, and what they experience is that world. If Alice can slip into that world during that short window and pull Usagi out, maybe she'll have a shot at surviving. Even though everybody who's been in that world felt like loads of time had passed, the truth is, their hearts only stopped for a single minute. The flow of time inside that collective consciousness is completely different from the real world. It moves in another way, so different that a single instant can feel like it stretches on forever. And she warns him there's no guarantee Alice will make it back alive since nothing like this has ever been tried before. But Alice isn't scared of death. If there is even the slightest chance to save Usagi, he's ready to put his life on the line. So Anne injects him with a substance needed to stop his heart for just a short while, giving him only 2 minutes to rescue his beloved. The clock halts, and everything fades away. Alice finally finds himself on the other side, and heads toward the very first game field located inside a shrine. In this game, every single player's got to pull out a slip of paper that reveals their fortune, and that slip includes a riddle that's supposed to be solved. If they mess up the answer, the numerical gap between the right one and the wrong one turns into a storm of fiery arrows raining down straight on them. The first player goes through, and everything seems to go smoothly until the second person steps up. On her fortune slip, she's got to solve a math problem. She throws out the wrong answer, and she's taken out by a blazing arrow, followed quickly by other victims. Terror starts taking over the players, and Alice gets swept up in it too. Then another participant steps forward, and she also gives the wrong answer. This time the numerical difference is even bigger, which makes a whole lot more fiery arrows appear, and many more start losing their lives. In the middle of all that chaos, Alice begins remembering the moments he once lived in that world before he woke up. The last one to step up is Alice. They ask him what the world's population is. Alice makes a mistake off by 100 million, and right then, it feels like hell itself breaks loose over them. But at that moment, Alice makes a crucial discovery. Every single slip of paper has an address written on it, and the one paper without any address at all is in fact the way out, the true path to escape. When Alice notices that nobody has mentioned Northwest, he suggests maybe they should head that way. Everyone follows his lead, and they finally come across a hidden tunnel, managing to escape the nightmare that was waiting for them. That's how they clear the very first game. Right after, they get notified that the second game will be held the next day. Even though a few hesitate to take part, Alice reminds them they got to do it. Otherwise, they'll be wiped out. At that exact moment, they come face to face with a giant card, the Joker card. Each one pulls a card from their pockets, and that's when the participants start opening up about their past. Some had been in support groups, others had tried to end their lives, and several had even been present during the meteorite incident. They all arrive at the same conclusion. Everyone standing there shares something in common. They had already been there before. The following day, Alice and his new group reached the second game, which turns out to be a card game. Each player gets dealt 7 cards, and they'll use those to compete one-on-one. The games take place at designated tables, and only cards of the same suit as the ones in the playoffs hand can be played. The highest hand is the one that wins, and the winner of the game takes a card from the loser. There are 3 kinds of special cards: the zombie card, the shotgun card, and the vaccine card. To stop the zombies from multiplying, there's the shotgun card, which makes it possible to take the zombies out. Each player gets 1 shotgun. Once it's used, the shotgun card gets discarded, and it doesn't work against humans. Finally, the vaccine card, which is handed out randomly among the players, cancels out the effect of the zombie card, but it can't be used on yourself. The game ends after 20 rounds. If a player runs out of cards before that time, they get eliminated, and whichever side has the most players left at the end of those rounds comes out the winner. The competition is split between zombies and humans. On top of that, it gets revealed there are other teams inside the building, and every single one of them gets a random zombie card. That's how the games kick off. Alice's plan is to stop all the zombies through the whole 20 rounds so they can secure victory. For that, they have to find the players holding the vaccine card since the zombies have already started spreading. Then a girl named Rai shows up, and she puts forward a plan so nobody has to die in the process. Her idea is to form a group that agrees to use the vaccine card to heal and save each other. It doesn't matter if somebody gets infected because that member will be rescued, but if someone infected them, the zombie can be threatened with a shotgun and kept under control. The group manages to trap a bunch of players who accuse them of being out of their minds, since if one of them turns into a zombie, they're going to use the shotgun card. The group members set it up so the zombies only play against other zombies, keeping them from multiplying. Plus, they bring in everyone holding the vaccine card, but then other players start taking advantage of that strategy since now they know who's a zombie. To lock in their own victory, they blackmail one of the participants into wiping out the zombies, and in the end, he actually goes through with it. Scared, a crew of zombies gets ready to strike back. Alice shares his worries with Rye, but Rye, confident, answers him by saying that the game has finally begun. EO blackmails No into taking out a zombie, and even though Alice objects, Nu really doesn't have much of a choice. Now they're planning to finish off Rye, suspecting that she might be a zombie too. Rye tries to convince Akeno that right now being a zombie is actually more convenient. The zombies keep spreading. There's more of them every single time. On top of that, she argues that humans still have feelings, and they don't have the guts to pull the trigger, not even to use the vaccine card on somebody else. While the humans keep hiding their vaccines, the zombies keep growing out of control. Most likely in the end, the zombies are going to win just by numbers. But the kid rejects her offer and pulls out the shotgun card. Still, Rye tricks him. She isn't a zombie at all. In the next round, Alice decides to play against Rye, and Rye tells him that in her eyes, the zombies are bound to win. Rye asks why he chose to play against her, and Alice answers that he's doing it because he wants to save her. Alice drops his zombie card and asks Rye why. If she already knows the zombies are going to win, she never turned into one of them. Rye explains she didn't do it because it wasn't guaranteed. When she planned out her strategy, she thought the humans were going to win. She decided to hold back until the very end to see how the game would play out. Finally, Alice reveals that he's been a zombie all along. The last round's about to start, and the only one left is Tetsu, who Nu was looking for to turn into a zombie. But Kazuya steps in, insisting that the humans have to take him down. Seizing the moment, Nu picked Kazuya, who doesn't have the shotgun card, as his opponent, and Alice chooses Tetsu. Alice plays the zombie card, and Nu does the same with Kazuya. The round ends and the zombies win by majority. The 13 humans that were left get wiped out this way. Alice and his crew move on to the third game. Meanwhile, we see Usagi, who runs into Ryuji, and the two of them take part in a game where they have to dodge deadly lasers. Even though Ryuji's in a wheelchair, they manage to clear the game successfully. Later, Ryuji confesses to Usagi that he's in that because he wants to see the world of death that lies beyond Borderland. In a flashback, we see Ryuji after his victory. B tells him he had figured he'd survive, and he reveals that he's been searching for people like him, folks capable of being fit citizens. On top of that, he makes a request. He wants him to bring a woman to that country, and he offers to show him the world he's been longing to see, the world of death. Beyond Borderland lies the world of death, and then he explains how he's going to convince her to go there, offering her the chance to see her deceased father. Meanwhile, Bond meets up with a man named Okiyaba, and together they plot the return of Usagi and Alice, because with them in the games, things are going to get way more interesting. On top of that, they plan to use Ryuji to control them. Finally, the next game kicks off, taking place on a train. If they manage to get through all the cars, and when they hear the siren make the train stop, they'll win the game. As they move through each car, when the doors close, the car will fill up with either oxygen or poisonous gas, and they only have one map with 5 cartridges, so they have to use them carefully. They're not allowed to use another player's cartridge, can't go back to the previous car, and only 4 cars will have poisonous gas. Everyone puts on their masks and decides to use a cartridge, but in the end, they find out it was just oxygen. In the second car, they use the cartridge again and discover it's poisonous gas. In the third car, Usagi decides not to use the mask, deducing that the game's creator will release the poisonous gas in the last round. They choose not to use it, and luckily it's just oxygen. Then they see another train pass by and watch as the participants die, failing to use the mask when it was poisonous gas, which spreads fear among those riding in this train. In the next car, they ask a train enthusiast who thinks the design's built to trap the poison up in the ceiling. Seems like he's right, because some trust him and put on the cartridge while others don't, and end up dying when they find out it's poisonous gas. In the following car, the kid figures out there's no poisonous gas since the car has got a pentagram and no room for a gas tank. They decide not to use the mask, and sure enough, it's only oxygen. In the next car, the kid admits he was wrong. This train design is different, and he doesn't know it. Now he has no clue where the pentagram RAF is, meaning it's all just been luck so far. Not knowing what to do, Usagi decides to trust her instincts. They figure they should use the cartridge, but they do it in vain because it's only oxygen. Now there are only 2 train cars left and just 1 single cartridge, which means that no one is going to survive. Very soon, the kid who's crazy about trains informs them that they're going to line up with the other train running parallel. And if both trains keep moving at the exact same speed, they'll be side by side. Usagi understands what the kid is trying to say. The only possible option they got is jumping onto the other train. The players on that train are already dead, so there isn't any tanks and no poisonous gas over there. Usagi is the very first one to jump, followed by the others right after. Though some of them don't manage to make it, even with his condition holding him back, Ryuji also succeeds in jumping. Just a few moments later, another train passes right beside them, and Usagi catches sight of Alice inside that train. They try to reach for each other's hands, but in the end they get separated. Sirens start howling, and Alice tries to stop the train, but instead of slowing it down, he ends up making it go faster. Finally, he manages to stop it, though the train crashes violently and flips over. Meanwhile, Usagi and her crew help out Ryuji, finding him another wheelchair. They already saved themselves because they managed to switch over to the other train. Alice ends up seriously injured in the crash, and Tetsu helps stitch up his wounds with a little sewing kit that Natsu found, though he takes a swig of alcohol first. Then we get a flashback of Ryuji back when he was a university professor. A student tells him she was fascinated by his research, where he explained that stimulation of the temporal lobe could trigger near-death experiences. She also mentioned having read that through those kinds of experiences, it might be possible to access the afterlife itself. The student asked him to prove the existence of that world of death. After months of working together, the two of them create a substance in order to try to test it. But during the experiment, the student never wakes up again. Because of the lack of evidence, Ryuji doesn't face legal charges. After this incident, Ryuji has an accident brought on by the psychological pressure, losing the ability to move his legs. Still, he keeps pushing forward with his deep research into life after death. Meanwhile, Alice wakes up, but he's weak, barely hanging on. He asks his team to leave him behind and keep going, since the next game is set to take place by sunset. However, his team refuses to abandon him because he saved their lives more than once. On the other side, Usagi and her crew take part in a game called Bingo inside Tokyo Tower. In this game, they got to play bingo by climbing up the tower, pressing buttons at different spots to complete a vertical, horizontal, or diagonal line on their cards, all while working together as a team. At the very top, they'll find a button that counts as the free square, and the winners will be chosen to move on to the final game. Ryuji manages to climb thanks to some prosthetics the team gets for him. However, a whole lot of members from Ryuji's crew end up dying as they fall from the tower. At the same time, we see Alice and his team caught up in another game, where they got to recover a boat and bring it back to its original position. If they don't manage to do it in time, the boat blows up, taking out whoever is carrying it, and only 10 people can survive since there are just 10 boats available as they push forward. Some participants die trying, but through all the mess and setbacks, a few manage to keep moving, while others like Shion fall, which drags everyone's spirits down. The game keeps pushing ahead, and soon there are only 3 boats left, while 3 members of Alice's team still haven't made it through. Natsu faces a rough situation when another player tries to take her out, but sadly she doesn't make it. The boat explodes, and in the end, it's only Alice and Kazuya left. He steps in to help Alice so he can secure the win, sticking him with the very last boat. But even after a brutal fight with the survivors, Kazuya falls short and gets wiped out. Meanwhile, Usagi pushes her way all the way to the top of the tower and takes the victory. Ryuji runs into Banda, who tells him that just like he promised, he's brought Usagi to that place. However, Banda instructs him to make sure Alice stays there for good, because he's the one who helped them win all the previous games. And thanks to him, Banda was able to become a citizen of Borderland. According to Banda, Alice is meant to be the perfect citizen. Ryuji asks him straight up if he's the Joker, and if not, demands to know who's really ruling over the world of the dead. But Banda only tells him to keep his focus on the mission since it isn't over yet. His task is to take out Usagi, and if he pulls it off, Alice will remain stuck in that world. Once the mission is done, Ryuji will finally uncover who's ruling that realm and discover the true nature of death itself, a mystery he still doesn't know. In the end, Ryuji accepts. Alice and his crew move forward toward the last game, and as they climb up a set of stairs, they realize they've returned to the real world, the very same place where everything first began. Soon they find out that what they're looking at is actually a screen showing their own reflections in the city. Then they notice a black door, which they decide to step through, keeping their path going while watching their other selves appear on the screen. Alice sees how his reflection makes it back home, and runs into Usagi. Then the image shows his other self holding a baby with Usagi right there beside him. However, the real Usagi watching isn't the one in the screen. In the end, both of them finally embrace being together again, while the screen projects them as a happy family. The others arrive and Alice, furious, goes at Ryuji, blaming him for everything happening with Usagi and herself. But Usagi steps in to defend him, explaining that Ryuji has always been the one helping her, and that her progress is all thanks to him since he saved her life. Then it's announced that 10 players have been registered, even though there are only 9. Alice figures this is because of Usagi's pregnancy, which she's just finding out about. The players get a strap-on wristbands and colors in order to join in the Shugaroku of the future, a maze filled with dice-based challenges. This maze is made up of 25 rooms set up in 5 rows and 5 columns. In each room, the players roll the dice, and the number they get tells them how far they advance to the next. The process keeps repeating until they reach the exit within a maximum of 15 turns. Those excluded by the dice roll can't move forward. The doors lock up, and it takes 2 players using their wristbands to unlock them. Every player starts with 15 points, which can be spent to open doors or to return to a room. If they run out of points, they're eliminated. The walls of the maze project visions of their futures, which will become real if they reach the exit. So Alice comes up with a plan for everyone to move forward together toward the goal. The game kicks off and Tetsu rolls the dice. On the walls, a different future shows up for every single player, and they get drawn toward the doors tied to the future that appeals to them the most. Alice reminds them they got to keep the point spending to a minimum and stick together, splitting up between doors 7 and 5. Even though Ryuji brushes off his strategy, they all follow along. As they keep moving, the players start losing points and choosing doors based on the futures they prefer. Even when they get separated, Alice keeps asking them to regroup. This ticks Ryuji off because he thinks splitting up will get them there faster, and that each one ought to focus on their own future. Several of them end up facing their dark futures, like Rai, who gets trapped in a room and tortured by her vision. Alice tries to free Rei, but Shota and Yuna ignore what he's planning. The players keep picking their doors. Nu leaves Tetsu behind, and both of them suffer the torment of their own futures. Alice unlocks Rei's room and pulls her out while Tetsu gets eliminated after running out of points. Nu goes back to look for him, but he can't find him anymore. Ryuji catches a glimpse of his future. In one version, he's together with Usai, but in another he sees himself using the weapon Ba gave him to take her out, inviting her into the world of the dead. Shota and Yuna split up, and when Shota runs out of points, he says goodbye to his sister before getting eliminated. The players are running low on points. At that moment, Alice gets a vision showing him finding the exit, but also seeing his own death, and Usagi's too. Alice comes up with a plan to get everyone out of the maze, but only 7 can escape. He sacrifices himself for Usagi and her baby, staying behind in the room so the others can go back, asking Ryuji to look after Usagi. Not long after, Alice sees on a screen that Ryuji is about to eliminate him, but feeling guilty, he decides not to go through with it, giving up his own dream. Alice gets notified that he's won the game for trusting the future to the others and staying in the room. Then he watches as the other players are dragged away by a tsunami and tries to break the screen, but it's no use. That's when Banda shows up and tells him he's earned the right to be a citizen. Alice refuses and finds out everything was planned by Banda, who used him to get back to Borderland, using Usagi as bait. Alice decides to escape and save everyone. Usagi falls into the water, and Alice rushes to save her, even though he's on the verge of drowning himself. Back in the real world, Banda tries to suffocate Alice while he's with Anne. Anne sees it and stops him, shouting at Alice to fight and save Usagi. Alice wakes up and pulls himself out of the water, but Banda finds him and points a gun at him. Alice tells him again he'll never accept being a citizen, which disappoints Banda. Just as he's about to finish him off, Banda gets eliminated. A mysterious man appears and tells Alice that Banda wasn't ready for his role. Alice asks if he's the Joker, but the man doesn't respond. Then he invites Alice to one last game. He has to choose between 2 cards that will decide his fate. Alice picks one and it turns out to be the Joker, but soon he realizes that both cards are the same. The man explains that the Joker isn't a person or an entity, it's just a card. He says it's no coincidence that both cards that determine Alice's fate are the Joker. Now his destiny is in his hands, but out of gratitude, the man lets him choose freely. He reveals that Borderland is a place between life and death, where people arrive during disasters to get a chance at survival. If Alice returns to his world, Usagi and the baby might not be alive. Entering the world of death is easy. He just has to throw himself into the vortex where there's no sadness or joy. As a watcher, he observes the space between life and death, avoiding crossing into death. The man also warns him that something big is about to happen, and many souls will be lost. At that moment, Alice sees Usagi. He tries to save her, but she gets dragged away with Ryuji into death. Finally, Ryuji gives up on trying to drag Usagi down, and as Ryuji throws himself into the abyss, Alice and Usagi push forward through the chaos. Usagi has a vision of her father who says goodbye to her. He hugs her and tells her he was always a happy person and that he wants her to be happy too. That gives her the strength to cling to life. Alice wakes up and tells him that only 2 minutes have passed and he did it. Alice rushes off to find Usagi, thanking Anne for her help. Alice heads to the hospital and finds out Usagi is okay. Having woken up from the coma while Ryuji is dead, the survivors return to the real world where they finally get to live the lives they always wanted. Later, Alice sees the survivors from the previous seasons and asks them what moments give meaning to life. Everyone has found a purpose that makes life worth living. Suddenly the ground starts shaking, and at work, they talk about the growing frequency of the quakes. When they turn on the TV, the news reports that simultaneous earthquakes are happening in different parts of the world, something the seismologists call an extremely rare phenomenon. Alice remembers the words of the Watcher who had warned that something big was coming, causing the loss of many souls. Finally, we see in California, USA, at a cafe, a girl named Alice. And that's how this season ends. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to get more new videos. See you next time.